you have gone on the trip that I have for years, and only been prevented by the existence of my family. Wanted to take back when there was talk of this. I made a call to Answers in Genesis to find out what they were planning for the Creation Museum in Kentucky. And
Yep, I mean,
in fact,
you have Cooperstown, 2 hours from you. I've got the Creation Museum. Maybe that says something, Sam. I don't know.
Okay, I am holding in my book holding in my hand, I should say, the Prepare to Believe Journey Through the Creation Museum book. That I think when we started this program, this version of the Majority Report a couple of years ago, I would once a week read an excerpt from it. But you've made the journey. Do you believe now? Were you prepared to believe? Did you believe?
I believe, Sam. I'm a believer in a lot of things. Nothing they said there. I was lucky enough,
and I should say you wrote a piece for Esquire, and we've linked to it on the at Majority FM.
Thank you. I'm not sure if the piece was quite sarcastic enough for you to link to it.
Right.
I know. I mean, look, you can't help it. For anybody who hasn't read, and doesn't read Charlie Pierce at Esquire, who I think is a national treasure, he went and he wrote a book called Idiot America. And it started off in the Creation Museum about, that's where he started the book, and it made complete sense about how we always have had our cranks, the book was about, but we've now elevated them to positions of authority. And he started off there, and I always thought to myself, I wanted to go there, and I got a quick chance to do it a couple of years ago, but I was only there very briefly, and so I really wanted to get the whole experience. So I went. I got to go with a friend of mine who's an anti-Christian right activist and a novelist, Casey Boyd, and I got to go. Marcy Wheeler, who I'm sure you've had on the show, was in town, and we talked about it. So we went, and Charlie Pierce and the people at Esquire said, they would kindly publish my update on what Charlie had written in the past, and the place is amazing. As I wrote about in the piece, they find a way. It's really, it makes you understand the Republican mindset, because everything is, the world was perfect and, it was created and wonderful and everything. But then the non-believers among us, led by Eve, that slut who ate the apple,
right.
They've led to the downfall. Everything from war to Nazism, hunger, you name it, anything bad, not including the Creation Museum, of course, has come from, the fact that we have forsaken God. And so a lot of right-wing movements that have a hell of a lot more in common with them, quite frankly, are our faults. And they get pretty clear in some of the people. They even have some of the characters from, Noah's Ark, and they're talking in like Brooklyn Jewish accents when they were talking about, oi, let's go get on the Ark. Would you like some pastrami? Would you like to stop for the pastrami before we get on the Ark? It's like the whole place is like ridiculous. And then, so you can tell there's the anti-Semitism.
Stop getting into line with three. Come on.
Exactly. Oh, what are you doing, huh? And then they've got this film, and I shit you not, they call it Men in White. Based on Men in Black, these two guys who really seem to have almost an attraction to each other, which I find funny too, because we know how it goes in places like that, with the Larry Craigs of the world. And
but let's be fair now. At that time, there was no gays, right? I mean, because we didn't get gay people until Will and Grace, or somewhere around then, I think.
Well, yeah, I do. I guess I'm skipping around. The main point I made that was the funniest thing overall, and I guess we can go back to Men in White and its genius, was the fact that they claimed that, there was no war and no poverty and no this and no that. And my response, and a couple of us were like, well, you're saying, before, Eve ate the apple, and we're like, yeah, but there were no people. Like, how could there possibly have been any of that if there were no people? It's sort of like, as I wrote in the piece, I was just like, yeah, there also were no NFL head injuries, dropped cell phone calls, Gwyneth Paltrow wasn't harassing us all about our diets. All sorts of terrible things weren't happening back then because there were no people, and so nobody asked that question. They don't sort of put that together, like before Eve, when there were no people, there were also none of these problems. And so, that's the thing. And then you go and you watch the Men in White, and they try to tell you that.
Well, let me ask you one thing about that, though. Did they have pictures of like dinosaurs cuddling each other before?
They do. They have all these awesome pictures of dinosaurs. We even got one, which I'll send to you if you want to link it, of me and Marcy cuddling with a dinosaur that I assume was like a couple hundred years old. Ike Clanton was riding around taking on the Earps, and they were doing it on brachiosauruses. And they try to make this claim, like they've got some guy that found like a dinosaur bone with all the meat on it, in Montana, 50 years ago, which proves that, I don't know, even though if you know anything about science, you know that they recently found a woolly mammoth frozen in ice, and there was actually still blood in this woolly mammoth because it was frozen in ice. So even if they're saying what happened, even if they're not just making it up, there would be a scientific explanation for that, but they don't bother with that. What they do tell you, though, which is great, because it reminds you of the kind of the projection and hypocrisy on the right. They always accuse us of everything they're doing, right? And so we're the ones who truly hate the poor and are holding back certain groups of people and all that stuff. The right always claims. And here they claim, how can you just, all the holes in Darwinism, how can you just take Darwinism on faith? These guys actually say that.
Right.
They've built their entire thing on faith and have, so it's so worth the best part. Well, no, it's hard to say the best part, but there's a lot of best parts. There's one part, like you walk in and like you look through these windows and they act out all these parts. There's this woman calling and she wants to get an abortion. Somehow that's our faults because of the society. Some guy's shooting up heroin. You look in another window. I mean, it's awesome. And they have all these like Newsweek and Time magazine covers.
Is that the Culture in Crisis room?
Yes, I believe it is.
Yeah, I'm looking through the book as we talk.
It's led to jihad. It's led to gays questioning whether they should actually have gay sex, which is, of course, unbelievable. Jesus talked all about that, as you know. Mm-hmm. Big non-fan of the gay sex was Jesus. And although, of course, I'm sure Megyn Kelly went there because she found out there Jesus was white.
Right.
Just that she said that the other day should tell you that is the mentality of that place. Well, look, there's a picture of Jesus, and he's white. He looks very European with the flowing blonde locks, or that must be how it was. And the culture's in crisis
Santa
because
there?
All of us.
Was Santa there? Did Santa live contemporaneously with Adam and Eve and the animals, or did he come in a little bit later?
I don't know, but I'd love to go running through there dressed as a black Santa just to freak people out.
My favorite,
which I may do.
One of my favorite things about the creation the creation book is actually like in the I guess it's the prologue, before they even get to the map, they have a picture of 6 people at the opening of the Creation Museum, and it is literally 6 50 to 65-year-old white guys, all heavy set, holding just a cut. I mean, it really does look like this could very well be like the Elks Lodge or something that they're, but it's the Creation Museum.
And that's kind of my point about the Men in White film and everything else. What's so funny about it is that all the people they have in these films are white men. All the people questioning themselves, tend to be women. Oh, have I lost my faith? And, in the Men in Black movie or Men in White movie, it's this woman who's lost her faith and she needs the 2 white guys who are angels. That's why they're Men in White, besides, of course, being white, to come down and tell her how, if she would just have her faith, everything good in the world would happen, right? We'd all have pasta primavera every night, and whatever team you root for would always win the Super Bowl, and the rest, and that's the whole museum, because mostly the people you see anywhere that are doing the right thing are white guys.
Right.
So it's always the other, kind of like Republican Party politics once again, that's taken away this perfect life you could have had, white man. That's kind of the message that you pick up all throughout the museum, which isn't shocking. I mean, it's hysterical. It may hurt you to turn. We got a $5 discount, each of us. I don't know why, but we did. I think we looked like very godly people, probably. So it only cost me, whatever it was, $23.95 or something to get in there. So it does hurt you handing over that money to them.
Yeah, I bet.
On the downside, on the plus side, it's like going to an amusement park, or really just sort of, getting stoned, even though none of us do that, and watching a really funny movie. So you really have to, you have to go there and just laugh your ass off, but then also share the insanity that you encounter with people. And I think then it's a.
I think that's called spreading the gospel.
I believe it is. And so I'm doing my best to spread the gospel, as they would want any good liberal Jew who grew up in New York City to do. And
you've certainly done a good job, there, Cliff. All right, well, Cliffy, thank you so much. Great to hear of that trip. I am just inexplicably, inarticulably jealous of you.
I've already got a plan, Sam. It involves. I know it's tough for you because I know I live in a flyover state, but it's going to involve you getting on a plane and getting off of it, actually in the middle of the country.
Do the planes land there, or do you got to jump out? What is that?
It's a lot like, I can't remember the name of it, so I can't go
dude, I'll be in your neck of the woods. I mean, not quite, but in Michigan for a couple of days celebrating Black Santa Claus Day.
You will be. Does your wife have family from there, or do you actually?
Oh, yeah. No,
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so you've got some Midwestern family.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If you come here, what we could do is the airport is in northern Kentucky. It's like the version of the airport being in, the Newark airport, right? You fly to New York, but you have to actually go through New Jersey kind of thing. And so what we could do is we grab you there, we go drive on the Bourbon Trail in northern Kentucky, get hammered, and end up at the Creation Museum, laugh our asses off. And if you do it the right weekend, around the right time, you can have the Kentucky Derby going on. So we head on down to Louisville and bet our asses off on horses.
Been there, done that, buddy. I had a good friend in college.
But I'm saying we could combine all of that.
Well, that would be pretty crazy.
The Bourbon Trail, the Creation Museum, and the Derby.
Well, if we could do it all in 45 minutes, I could probably get permission to do it. But if it's going to be anything longer than 45 minutes, that won't work for me. But Cliffy.
Hey, listen, I've learned after the Creation Museum, if Jesus could walk on water and rise on up, and if dinosaurs were riding around in the late 19th century, as far as I'm concerned, 45 minutes, anything can happen. Miracles do occur, Sam.
Cliff Schecter, always a pleasure.